Hello, my name is Cheri Brunner Daschle, and I'm here today representing the Tread of Pioneers Museum. We are collecting oral interviews for a project called Tales of the Old Junior High. There will be interviews of staff, teachers, and administrators who worked at Steamboat Springs Junior High School on 7th Street in the 1970s, before Steamboat Springs Middle School was built on the Strawberry Park campus on Amethyst Street. Good morning. Please tell us your name and your connection to the old junior high.
Well, good morning. My name is Bert Svendsen, but most people don't realize my legal name is Lee Allen Svendsen, and that was the name on all the contracts that I signed. But I go by Bert Svendsen. Everybody knows me by Bert Svendsen. And I was a teacher at the middle school, Steamboat Springs Junior High School from 1976 until we moved in 1981. Don't have the exact date on that move, but it was sometime in the fall of 81.
Where did you grow up?
I and my wife Cindy both grew up in Iowa. We grew up in very small towns compared to Steamboat. I think the population of my town was 500 and Cindy's was 400. And we met in high school in Turkey Valley High School in Iowa, Jackson Junction, Iowa. I was from Lawler, Iowa. And we went to high school together and graduated in 1969.
Where did you go to college?
After high school, Cindy went west to California to work, and I attended a teacher's college. It was called University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, Iowa. I graduated from there in 1973 with a teaching degree, a mathematics degree with emphasis in the middle school. Actually, it was called the junior high school back then. Middle school concept really didn't hit until more in the late 70s.
How would you describe the difference between the middle school concept and junior high?
Well, to be honest, I never saw too much difference, but there was an emphasis more on the kids and success, I think, during middle school ages versus the junior high school years. I really don't know why. I think middle school really incorporated 6th grade rather than just junior highs were basically just 7th and 8th grade. And they incorporated a lot of 6th grade, which identified the middle years of their education, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
What made you decide to move to Steamboat, or how did you get that job?
Well, after I graduated from college, I got a job teaching in a little town on the Mississippi River called Savannah, Illinois. And during that time, my wife and I, Cindy, we got married in 1973. And there was a little ski area right there by us on the Mississippi River, and we'd go skiing. And we always said, let's go to the mountains and ski in Colorado. And in 1976, yes, after 3 years of teaching in Savannah, Illinois, I applied for a teaching position here in Steamboat Springs. And I was able to get an interview, and I think it was spring of 1976, and Mr. Alfred Budrut, hired me, and we were on cloud 9, thinking we were moving to the mountains.
How was that move, and how much money did you make, and what was rent at the time in Steamboat?
Well, that was 1976, and I always remember it was we moved the week after the Big Thompson flood, which was a disaster over on the eastern slope. So 1976, I guess it would be fall of 1976, we moved out here. We had a 1974 Chevy Blazer and a 1968 Chevy station wagon, and we pulled a U-Haul, and we moved out here in the first place we lived for about a week was out at the mountain in a condo, and you know, one of the biggest, probably best things we ever did was we decided when we moved here that we were not going to live in a trailer, because we had lived in a trailer, mobile home, in Illinois for 3 years, and we said, you know, everybody probably needs to start that way, but we want to do whatever it takes to buy a home in Steamboat Springs. And we were able to purchase a home out in Steamboat 2 back in 19, I guess it would be 76. We bought it the year we came. And
do you remember what that house cost at the time?
The cost of that? Well, unbelievably, yeah. $42,000 for a nice little home in Steamboat 2. So our parents, of course, couldn't believe we paid that much money for a home coming from where we did. But there was a sacrifice we made, and we attribute it to the fact that we just were determined not to live in a mobile home again. So.
And what was your salary that first year?
Well, in 1976, I have a contract in a little book that I keep that shows my contract was for $11,000, which I think we felt was a pretty good salary at that time. I was teaching at the junior high school, I was hired to teach math and science. I can't remember which grades I was teaching, but it was math and science. And then I coached 3 sports. I coached junior high football and high school wrestling and junior high wrestling. I was an assistant to Carl Romano in wrestling.
How was working with Carl Romano?
Oh, he's a, you know, he's a star on the Western Slope for sure. He was. It was quite a learning experience. You know, he's a legend, and he's one of the individuals that I'll always remember from teaching early in Steamboat Springs.
How long did you coach?
Oh, I coached, well, you know, I kind of moving ahead here, but I guess I retired in 2001, and during those, every year I was coaching something. And I coached wrestling for probably, out of the 28 years, I think I coached wrestling for 20 of them, and stayed in the football program for all of them. Either at the middle school, junior high school, middle school, and then high school eventually.
Please tell us about some of your classes or students you keep in touch with, or what you liked about teaching.
Yeah, I always remember the junior high school, and I'm sure you're going to get into this, is not an easily laid out building where you can, for instance, say all the math classes or all the 7th graders are over here and all the 6th graders over there. It was pretty well mixed up, and I think Cheri has told me that it was originally 3 different buildings, and I can understand that. I taught science my first year in something the kids called the Sky Lab. I think everybody called it the Sky Lab because it was the highest room in the building, I think the 3rd floor probably, and it looked out over our little courtyard, which was very nice, but there were a lot of items that left windows from that classroom and ended up down in the courtyard when the teachers weren't in the rooms. They had those sliding windows, big windows, and I can always remember that. But that's where the science classes were taught. I taught math down in the lower floors, and eventually I actually taught physical education with I can't even. I'm sorry.
Jean? Was it with Jean?
My teacher
it was
was
before Jean.
Jean Labry.
Was it Jean Labry?
Jean Labry for at least 1 year, maybe a lady named Bonnie Byer, and then later on Ann Keating, but I don't think Ann was at that building.
Okay.
But anyway, I taught all of those. Kids, yeah, I can remember some kids. I think my first year they were 8th graders, and they ended up being great wrestlers too. Shane Webb and Reagan Rivera were some kids, and I remember there were a group of girls that to this day still do trips and everything together, and that was like Kendra Drake, and there was a Hoffner girl, and a Fetcher, and a Mullison girls. They were kind of in a little group, and of course in junior high school there were groups of people here and there, and that was their group. But I know a student that I do remember, and we had classes called like Right to Read or Friday Friends, and during that time it was a quiet time where kids were expected to read, so were the teachers, and then occasionally we would have something called Friday Friends, where it was a discussion groups amongst the teachers in your little group. And I had one individual in there that constantly drew pictures, and it's just funny because after Cheri asked me to do this interview, I researched a little bit, and I went through some papers I had, and I found all of these drawings at this one individual. He must have been a 7th or 8th grader at that time. His name was Chris Rabatin, and he went by Rabbit. And to this day, I kept him because I guess eventually I told him I was going to give him to him. And probably about 20 or 30 drawings that he has. So I'm looking forward to getting those to him. I've contacted him through Facebook, and he was very appreciative, and we're going to try to make that work.
There's something about your first class as a teacher in a certain place, isn't there? It seems like you remember the kids in that class, and then you can remember other kids because they were a year younger or after that. Yeah.
And I think that goes back to some of the probably first sports kids I had too. The Reagan Rivera, the Shane Webb, Robert Southall was a football player that I had in 7th grade football my first year, and his brother was Tommy Southall, who was an 8th grader that year. And I came to football practice, and Winston Walker was the 8th grade football coach, and he said, "Watch this kid run," and he just went through the whole line and everything, and he walks back with the football, and I looked at him, and he only had one arm. And I said, "Wow, that was amazing." So little Tommy was the best pass receiver, best runner, and everything. But those are some kids I remember.
Yeah.
I guess through sports.
I like that. You talked about Friday Friends. You talked about Right to Read. Any other programs that you remember, or things that we did during the year?
Well, what I remember is if you remember, we had a fence around our playground at the middle school, or the junior high school.
You were longer at the middle school.
Yeah, and that's where we had recess, and that's where we had physical education classes, because on the other side of that fence was 7th Street and not Oak Street, but and so of course we didn't want the kids to get out on the road during PE or anything. And the one event I always remember is we had homecoming. When we had homecoming, the high school would have a parade, and they would come down in front of our school and also Soda Creek, which is up the road there on 7th Street. But our kids would all be up against that fence, almost like their faces were pushed up against it. And I can remember those, it was that like a hog wire fencing, not necessarily nice squares, but they were diamond shape. And those kids were up there just with their fingers on it, and they were pushing each other just to see the homecoming parades. I always thought that was funny.
I wonder if they do that anymore, or bring it past the other school. I wonder if they bring that parade past the kids anymore.
Oh, I hope so. I don't know if they do or not.
That was a big deal when we got out to watch that.
Well, of course, the Soda Creek is still there, so hopefully they come by the old junior high school also.
What about the other faculty? Who do you remember working with particularly, or another teacher told us there were always things where people got together. Everybody was a young couple at that time, and there were parties on the weekends. And That's
true. I think almost every weekend there was either happy hour at the Holiday Inn, or someplace in town. We didn't have that many choices back then. And we were pretty social, and we had quite a few get-togethers, let me say. And we were all pretty young. I guess we all thought we were young. I don't even know who was old at that time. A couple special people that I remember my first year that really helped Cindy and I were Pat and Stephen Hurst. And Pat was a math teacher, and she kind of mentored me. I was in the math program, and Stephen was my assistant in football. And so we got together quite well. I always remember a story of Pat Hurst. You know, we talked about, Cheri told me that there are 3 different buildings there. Well, Pat always reminded me that, she says, the band room there, she says, I was born in the band room. So at one point, the band room was part of a hospital, I understand. Of course, I always remember our office staff, Cheri Daschle and Sandy Childers. They kind of ran the place. And our custodians, Jimmy Smith and George Cheek, can't forget them. And of course, they were the ones who really kept the building in shape. And the other 2 that really ran the place are Bud Rutt, of course, and Bob Harris. So, and I think everybody would mention those 2 if you asked them, people they remember.
There was something about the way they worked together, I think, that was pretty particular. Do you remember much about how they worked together as faculty and, well, as our principal and assistant principal?
Sure. Well, Coach, of course, we called Bob Harris Coach. And Coach, you know, kids knew that if they were in trouble and had to go to Coach's office, there was going to be some problems and probably parental calls made. Mr. Rutt, great administrator, made sure the building and everything got done right. But those 2 worked for, I think, 20 some years I was there. They were together as a principal and vice principal. It was just a great staff. I think we seemed to work very well together.
And you talked about the building. Do you remember anything in particular about the building, like where PE was down below, or?
I remember the Sky Lab, and I remember I taught in the Sky Lab, and I taught math down in the hall. The dungeon, I'm not sure what we called it. Do you remember how it was down there, but there was a hearing booth right outside my door. It was the lowest room you could get in the school, I think. The custodian room was like, no, that wasn't right next to it. That was on the other side. That was separated. The custodian room was separated from my room by we called it the old gym, I believe. Do you remember that? We had the old gym, and we used to have to do, I did anyway, had to do noon-hour supervision. It probably doesn't happen today, but in that old gym, we used to have a trampoline, and those kids would be, you know, they'd just go wild jumping on the trampoline. We weren't worried too much about, I guess, injuries or anything. And to this day, I always remember, I think Nelson Carmichael and one of the other freestyle skiers was in the middle school at that time, and they used to jump and they'd touch the ceiling and push those insulating ceiling tiles out. But anyway, those are some memories I have. And it was really a different setup where the custodian's room, remember, was right down those stairs. And then there was the old gym, and then on the other side of that was my math classroom. And you access those from the other set of stairs.
Well, and I think the nurse's room was up in a little cubby hole on one side.
Yeah.
And the counseling office was a tiny cubby hole. It had all these little nooks and crannies.
Every space of the building was used, I think, for something. And we outgrew it, obviously, because we had to move when we moved to a new school.
And we decided that was the fall of '81, right? As far as we can tell.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has an exact date on that, but
what
I
do you
remember
about the move?
Remember about what?
The move itself.
All I really remember about the move itself is again, I don't know if you could do it today, but we had kids helping us move. We didn't call a day of school off or anything. We just said, come to school, and probably not many classes today. 8th graders or somebody was going to help us move.
And so you're taking, I heard, school buses and pickup trucks out to Strawberry Park to the new school, which was Steamboat Springs Middle School. And that was an all-day affair with the kids and moving desks and...
Exactly. Yeah, we used...
What about your family? Cindy and you started a family here, correct?
Yes. So yes, as I said, Cindy and I were married in 1973, and we went to high school together, and so we've been together for now 52 years, I guess. And in 79, we had our first child. His name is Eric. And in 1982, we had another boy. His name is Kyle. And they went through the schools here, the public schools. They got a great education. Both of them were able to go on to higher institutes of learning. One went to the Air Force Academy, and the other one to CU. And they've always stated that they thought they had a great education here, living up in. Many people, when they come and visit us now, they're just envious of the fact that the kids were able to live here and grow up here and have all this outdoor freedom. And so people who visit us from the cities are just really, as I said, envious of the boys.
What did they like to do? Clubs or sports or things in town? What did they enjoy doing, or what did you enjoy doing as a family?
Well, we were involved with a lot of the sports. There was the soccer program. It was just really getting started back then. So that's that's 40 years ago or so. Yeah. The youth soccer, which grew into a school program. Our boys participated in football and skiing. They were in the winter sports club. And of course we hiked and we camped and fished and did a lot of the things that that you're able to do here. So
you taught from 76 and retired in 2001. So five-ish years at the old school and the rest of the time at the new school.
Yeah.
Was there anything you missed when you guys moved, when we all moved to the new school out in Strawberry Park? Was there anything you missed about that old building or the old setup or?
Yeah. Of course it was brand new and everybody liked the newness of the new school. But the location of the old school, I think, was always convenient, much more convenient for many things, downtown access and whatever, Halson Hill. But Cheri, that was a long time ago. I'd have to think about that one.
Do you remember having open campus and the kids could leave during lunch?
I don't remember the middle school or the junior high school ever doing that. I think the high school did, maybe, at that time.
I think you're right.
But I'm not positive on that. Yeah.
So what are you involved in currently since you retired, and what do you enjoy doing now?
Well, I was able to retire pretty early because I had taught 28 years, and then so I retired in 2001. And then I did get into a real estate program with Nick Metzler, a very good friend of mine, for many years, until actually 2 years ago, 2024. With teachers having their time off in the summer, another friend of mine, when he came when we were in the middle school, was Matt Treadway. And between Matt Treadway and I, we both had a background of working construction and concrete. And so we actually formed a concrete company, and we would do concrete in the summers. That included foundations for houses and to the point where Matt built his house and we did all the work on the concrete there. I built 2 or 3 homes after that, and Matt helped me do all the concrete on those. So it was a very worthwhile venture in the summer. So we did that for summer work. Currently, Cindy and I both, to stay healthy, because exercise is medicine for the body. We play pickleball, and we really enjoy that. Of course, we get the occasional hike in, and even fish once in a while. So.
And how far away are the kids?
Our oldest child, Eric, is in near San Antonio. He's in Bernie, Texas. And our other son is in Los Angeles. We have 5 grandchildren. Eric has 4 children. And Kyle has 1. We actually are at the point where we've kind of don't ski anymore or snowshoe, so we've actually spent the last winter in Texas where it was warmer, and we're planning on doing that again this year.
What about Sunlight, where we are right now? What's your connection to the Sunlight subdivision?
Well, this is a subdivision. Its size is like 52 acres up here. It's a new subdivision developed in 2018 or so. And I go back to my friend Matt Treadway and Nick Metzler, who I've already mentioned. We were able to purchase this property in the year 2000, right when I retired. And we, at that time, the people we purchased it from couldn't find a way to get it developed. And I must say, due to our connections, Matt Treadway and Nick and mine, we were able to communicate with some of the fellow or neighboring landowners, and we were able to get some good access. And so we developed this property. It's called Sunlight. There's 92 home sites up here, and I think 85 of them are built on right now. So that was something that we as teachers were pretty proud of, that we were able to do. And yeah, so we're proud of the fact that we were part of this development.
What do you see about Steamboat Springs that is so much different than the 70s? Things that are better, things that you are not as good, or things that you'd love to go back to?
Yeah. Well, I think it's still a great place to have children and let them grow. They have opportunities here that cannot be found very few places in the world. So, I mean, that hasn't changed. That opportunity has always been there. There's the biggest difference I've found is traffic. You know, if you think about it, there's really, and this is a whole different subject, but there's only one way to get into downtown Steamboat, and that is to go by the library. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it really just backs up here, and coming from the other direction, I'm sure there's some issues there too. But so it's just because we have more people, you know, and I'm not one of those that say close the door and don't let any more in. We were able to come in 1976, and we were able to make it. Of course, affordable housing is always an issue, and will continue to be an issue here for quite a while. It concerns me a little bit that the affordable housing they're talking about is west of town, but that just is going to bring more traffic, I know. So traffic is always going to be a big issue. I wish some billionaire or trillionaire or whatever would come in and build a bypass or something over the, I don't know where, over the House and Hill or someplace. I don't know how we could get 2 roads of traffic into Steamboat. So, I mean, those are, I'm sure there's all kinds of differences everywhere, but at the school-wise, big difference. You know, I'm not sure what it would be like right now to go back into the schools and teach with the technology and the phones and everything. And I know there's teachers that do a great job yet, and they've adapted. And I think if I'd been there and stayed there, I probably would have adapted. But it'd be tough for me to go back right now and substitute, for instance, with the phone situation and technology. So I don't know how they handle that in the schools, but that's obviously a very big difference.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you wrote down that we did not talk about?
Oh.
Just
you are very thorough, Cheri. Let me tell you. You did a great job. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you doing this. And the Treads of Pioneer is a wonderful museum. And you know, it's a great little place for this town. And if I was recommending to people who visit here, that'd be day 1 or day 2 of your visit. You should go to the Treads of Pioneer Museum to get some background.
That's a connection that I continue to have with your wife Cindy, because she and I have both been volunteers there, and so we both enjoy that for sure.
Yes, Cindy is a volunteer at the Treads. All right, I'm looking at my notes.
The salary, even the salary part at the bottom would be interesting, that you wrote down the different years.
You know, obviously the salaries have changed, and they have to if you want to live here. I don't know how you can live here now, but I suppose somebody would have said, I don't know how you could live here in '76 on $11,000, and then in the next year we got I got looks like a $500 raise, $11,800. Then the next year, $13,000 in '79-'80, and something big must have happened in '80-'81, because I got a jump of about $4,000, $18,000 in 1980-'81.
Which is interesting, because that's the year we were moving to the new school. You'd think that would have been a lower budget year.
Yeah, I don't know if we had so many more students, or
maybe so.
You know,
that's right, because that's how we get our money, is public school per student from the state.
I was involved with the local education association for quite a while. I was president of that for several years, and that, of course, is who negotiates the salaries, and they still do. It appears to be.
Did we seem behind on salaries in our little town, or were we pretty current with?
Oh, I think we were probably behind, and then in '80-'81 we must have caught up. I think that was probably the big push for a huge salary increase. I mean, that would be huge, a $5,000 increase back in 1979. Yeah. What else, Cheri? What can you think of?
Let's see.
What did you say were some of the big things that you remembered about the old junior high school?
Oh, I remember the feel of it, the cement and the wood steps, and it seemed echoey, and but it had a warm feel to it too. The library with its big windows, and the big trees out front, which have now been taken down.
Yeah.
Those great big trees that you could see out the big windows from the library. I remember seeing balloons come floating by my office windows. Sometimes the big hot air balloons would come right through town. Yeah, it was just a fun building to work in with a really fun staff. And we were all young. I mean, I was 20. You guys were all just out of college.
Yeah.
A lot of you. And it was a good time of life.
Yes. You know, I don't know if this is part of the interview, but somebody asked me one day, how old do you think the first kids you taught, how old do you think they are today? So, let's see, 1973 I was teaching, and I was actually teaching some high school seniors.
Oh,
so they were 18 and I was 21, 22. So that means they're only they're 70 years old.
Oh my gosh.
The first kids that I taught. So anyway,
Oh,
everybody could do that, say that.
Well, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
This was great fun.
I was not fortunate enough to have your boys in school. I think they
were
was
born
back in the time when
right around the time
they had
when your
different
boys
teachers.
were,
Well,
yeah.
Michael graduated in
2000.
Yeah, but no, I don't. Maybe I had him in advanced math, but
Yeah, maybe 8th grade for Michael.
well, he graduated in 2000, so he was down at the junior high and
76.
No,
not 76. That's a little too far back. 96. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's a good thing you're the math teacher and I'm not. Thanks so much.
well, thank you guys for doing this.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna have to edit a bunch.
Good tales to
Thanks,
be told.
David.